Hello and welcome to a special edition of the TRBusiness Adapt and Survive Skype video series. Today we are joined by Stephenie Rodriguez. Stephenie is the CEO, creator and founder of the Wandersafe Personal Safety Device. Throughout this series, we have spoken to a number of industry stakeholders who have been having to adapt and survive personally and professionally due to the COVID-19 crisis. Stephenie is having to adapt and survive for her own personal set of reasons, having contracted cerebral malaria and septic shock last year. Stephenie contracted the deadly illness after being bitten by an infected mosquito during a Wandersafe business trip to Lagos, Nigeria in September 2019. Stephenie did not know she was ill until collapsing during another business trip to the US soon after. She then spent over a week in a coma in Boston. Today, she joins us from the Prince of Wales Private Hospital in Sydney, Australia, where she has been for 82 days. Hi, Stephenie.
Hi, Andy. Nice to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us. I just want to say you are a true inspiration to myself and the entire duty-free and travel retail industry. Your courage, determination, and grit are admirable.
Thank you so much. It has been one heck of a journey. Andy, it's been 220 days since I fell out in that coma in Logan Airport, and I've been in this hospital for 82 days. So it has been one heck of an ordeal.
Can you just give us a brief summary of the journey you have been on since contracting the illness, and how is the recovery progressing?
Sure. Well, when I fell into the coma, it was right about the time most of you who are watching would have been at the TFWA welcome cocktails. I fought for my life for 2 weeks in a sepsis coma because of the amount of the parasite in my blood, the malaria parasite. And as a result of that, was given some medications in the coma, which kept me alive, but they had collateral damage on both my hands and feet. So whilst I was pronounced malaria free on day 35 in Boston, I did return to Australia with a medevac flight and have had to recover in hospital in Australia ever since. I've had more than 13 operations on my feet, but I'm delighted to say that we're on the home stretch and we are looking forward to perhaps, returning home after, this long stint in hospital in the next 2 weeks.
I bet you must be so excited to return home and do all the things you've missed. And we're all, I speak for the TRBusiness team, we are all right behind you and cannot wait to receive the news that you've returned home.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I've had this time not only to do some reflecting, and I know COVID's been something that isolation has challenged some folks with, not only with our industry, travel retail turned upside down by the lack of footfall and passengers, but as well as having ourselves to be isolated and at home. I've used this time to begin writing a book. So I'm quite excited about working on a memoir around this recovery that I hope will inspire other people who might be challenged physically or, need an inspiration in their daily life.
I look forward to maybe reading this one day and hopefully you'll share it with us. Just focusing on the COVID-19 crisis, what impact has this had on your treatment and your recovery plan? Because this has been all going on sort of like in the background. I'm sure you've been keeping tabs on what's going on. So I just wanted to know the impact it might be having on your treatment.
Well, interestingly enough, on the 25th of April, it was World Malaria Day. And it was very sad. And I spoke about this on a LinkedIn post, but it was sad for me that malaria didn't trend and end malaria now, because everyone in the world is in such a state of panic over COVID that we're neglecting to continue to focus resources to end a world pandemic, which is malaria, that kills a human being every 2 minutes. COVID is yet to get to that magnitude, and it's not a time, in my opinion, to take the foot off the gas with the way in which funds and resources were allocated to malaria. now that COVID is the flavor of the month. Malaria is still something that kills a person every 2 minutes. It still is a sub-Sahara primary plague, but I'm living proof that it could happen to anybody, anywhere. I met you in South Africa, in Cape Town, a few years ago. And, Africa is a hotbed for malaria. Thailand and Singapore also are places where malaria is prevalent. So as much as any of us travel, we are all, potential prey to malaria.
I have a feeling that once all this is over with, you're going to do everything you can to raise awareness of this. I just have a feeling that you might, and that you will, and it would be totally appropriate if you did. Just moving on and focusing again on your current experience, have you been able to have any visitors during the COVID-19 crisis, and how have you coped with being away from your son and other family members who I understand are spread worldwide?
Yes, well, having an extensive family, I was fortunate, lucky, unlucky, when I fell into the coma that I was in Boston, and so many of my family members, including my mother and my aunties and cousins, live in the East Coast of the United States. So they all flocked to my bedside and looked in on me in my early days. But the hard yards of recovery from November forward have been in Australia, and I am a mother to a 14-year-old boy. This has been extremely traumatic for him. With the lockdown in Australia and the stringent laws that we have and fines around breaking the lockdown rules, the only visitor I'm allowed to have since the COVID lockdown has been my 14-year-old son. But when I was in Boston, the most illuminated visitor was none other than Adil Rahani, who folks in travel retail longer than 5 minutes have probably come across or heard about from his many, presentations from Trinity to TFWA and his time in the industry. So I was very blessed to have a friend fly from Athens to Boston and hold my hand in the ICU for 3 days and pass on the encouragement that so many folks have extended to me, both, from day one and continue to do even today.
I'm sure that was such a great lift for you, because Adil has the ability to light up any room that he enters, even an ICU ward, I'm sure. So I'm happy he was there, and I'm happy he was there. He was able to give you a lift at this time. Just how much have you been following the impact of the COVID-19 crisis in Australia, globally, and across the duty-free and travel retail industry?
Well, Andy, that's about a 4-pronged question. and in hospital, I don't have access to some of the traditional media because I'm in a hospital. I don't get the paper delivered to me every day here. And I'm also quite focused on my own insular challenges day to day. But I have seen the way Australia's handled the COVID crisis, and I'm very proud of the way Australia's dealt with it. I'm very proud of how some countries have managed this, and it's beautiful to see, even in the UK, the way in which folks are teaming together, and the amount of humanity that I've seen has been impressive. I've also seen some very bad behavior from countries like the US that make me very glad to be where I'm at. I've seen the way that TR has been impacted, though, by the conversations we're having in Facebook and LinkedIn, etc., and the daily news briefs that come in my inbox. And this is a call for change. I think the world needed a hard reset, and we got it. And the industry has also had a chance to evaluate what it does and to create new value in a new paradigm. And that's going to challenge some, but those who are very creative and listening to what people want will be winners in this next new normal that we will come into.
And you mentioned the new normal, the new paradigm. These phrases have cropped up on several of these Adapt and Survive video interviews that we've done. Can you just elaborate a little bit on what you believe are some of the long-term implications for the duty-free and travel retail industry? What's your, I know, as I must stress, I know you've got complete other priorities at the moment, but what is your view on some of these the new norm in the future? How do you think it could transpire?
Well, I think we should look at this in two different lenses. I mean, one is our own health and well-being, and you and I are the first two people, Andy, to jump on planes and travel 90% of the year. And we've been grounded, and that's forced us to look at our lifestyle a little bit and the way in which we want to work. Folks who were never work from home people have learned how to work autonomously, and that perhaps for some is challenging, but it's also creating new depth. I think that in this new paradigm, customers and travelers are going to care more about hygiene, care more about social distancing and cleaner environments. And that's going to force airports and airlines and train stations and railway stations to evaluate the way that they wayfind and herd people into closed environments, as well as looking to assuring passengers that their health and well-being are attended to in the next new normal.
There's definitely going to be lots of changes. I don't think the industry is ever going to be the same again. I also think there's going to be more of a focus on digital in the future as well. Anyway, moving on. You mentioned earlier about the tremendous support you've had from the duty-free and travel retail industry throughout your ordeal. But I just wanted to ask, what type of support have you had from the Wandersafe investors? And how have you set about continuing to emphasise the importance of Wandersafe as a tool which can save women's lives? Because I know that's so close to your heart.
Well, yes. As it were, Andy, we were just ready to release a brand new product, our Shakti Beacon, in the market for Christmas. And unfortunately, the coma took me and had me on the sidelines well into November before the company was able to address the product release. And then COVID crept along. I'm fortunate to have so many of the Jozu for Women Wandersafe investors who have really extended, both their positivity and, their firm belief in continuance to support the company during this hibernation that we've gone into, so that when we come out and when the world has come out from hibernation, we can bring back and continue the journey that we started, which was to impact 1 billion lives by 2025. That, was our why for creating the Wandersafe app and our beacons.
I mean, for me, the fact you're even managing to focus on developing this continuing to develop the product in light of what you're going through, it just shows the type of person you are, your spirit and determination. It's just so admirable, Steph. I just wanted to ask, what message do you have for anyone watching this video who might have been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis on a personal and professional level?
Well, I mean, firstly, this too shall pass. We've gone through hard times, and there have been hard things and hard situations. And it's like my 14-year-old son said to me, and this has been powerful for my whole recovery, and maybe this might encourage someone. My son said to me, "Mom, you were in the jaws of death, and you came out 98% unscathed. And for those of us who haven't lost a loved one, the world is reset. But when we look around, we're still whole. We still have an opportunity to move forward." He also said, "Mom, life is 10% of what you're given and 90% of what you do with it." And coming from a 14-year-old, these are pearls of wisdom. But it really made me see, versus, the setbacks and the pain and the trauma that I've gone through, that I can either, curl up in a ball and cry, or I can look to the future and use my story to inspire someone else. So I think with this, we can look at what everyone has been dealt with. You know, the point is you're not alone. No one is alone in this. We have all experienced those setbacks. We've all experienced challenges. It's what we do with it. The symbol for chaos in Chinese is 2 characters. The first one means chaos, the second one, opportunity. So I think the victors and those who will win in the end are those who look to the opportunities that this reset has created and create new products, create value for your customer, for your teams. Because you and I, traveling, Andy, are just at much high risk of contracting a social disease or a pandemic virus by way of just doing our jobs, just like the frontline staff by traveling. So we have to look at what does this mean, you know, this to us and moving forward, and how to look into that new paradigm and look at the new opportunities.
I just wanted to end by just asking a question about malaria. What precautions would you advise people to take once international travel restarts on a large scale after COVID-19 passes to try and prevent contracting malaria? Are there things people can do?
Well, you know, Andy, I was unlucky. I looked into the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs website, DFAT we call it here. US State Department has osac.gov. The UK probably has something similar, where there are travel advisories and warnings for regions traveling away from home. The Wandersafe app, in fact, since my injury, we've actually added features that give you information around health and well-being, and including, you know, illnesses, both viruses or flus, pandemics, anything, to inform you when you're in location of something, of what you need to be concerned about and how to prepare for it. Malaria, it's just unfortunate that I contracted it, but it could have been anyone. Doing your homework before you travel, using tools and seeking out information is, you know, traveling smarter and know before you go. And that's really just common sense.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Steph. And I just want to repeat what an inspiration you are to everybody in the industry and everybody in general the world over. Keep fighting and all the best with your recovery. And I really look forward to seeing you once this crisis is over, back in the duty-free and travel retail arena where you belong.
Thanks, Andy. If you want to follow along with my journey and see more of some of the videos around what we've been through and where we are, you can log on to bit.ly/F fund, S Steph, and read all about where we are as far as our recovery. So anyone who's interested in seeing how we're going, it is a long journey, Andy, till we're up and running races and dancing on tables, but I'm optimistic we're going to get there.
Well, everybody is right behind you, and I'm sure they'll be eager to follow you. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you so much.